Alon Wolf lager verdens dyreste høyttaler. Den koster 9 millioner i Norge, $750 000 i USA. Heter M9. Han har også laget en litt billigere høyttaler som han skal snakke om. Den heter A5. Husk å abonnere og trykk like, sånn at vi kan lage flere intervjuer som dette. For you, this is the cheap speakers, and it costs 34,000 euros in Norway.
We don't like to use the word cheap. It's not cheap. Nothing we do is cheap. But it's our most affordable line. It's a very, very good value for the money, even though it's, how much you said in Europe?
34,000 euros.
34,000 euros. But don't forget that it includes VAT. So
yeah. So not a problem
it's
then?
on Europe.
But what's special about this speaker?
Everything is special about it. It's built to a Magico standard, 3/8 and ½ depending on the plates of aluminum, 6061. It's built like a tank, like the rest of the stuff. It uses our beryllium tweeters. The version is not as invested as in our bigger speakers, but nevertheless, it's the same diaphragm that we're using on the M9. Our first 5-inch mid-range, it's aluminum honeycomb, the only one in the world, I believe. Foam surround, which is also unique. We have a new formula that actually allows us to use the good old foam, but in a way that it would not disintegrate over the years. 3 9-inch woofers, again, aluminum honeycomb that I'm sure you heard can move a lot of air. Mundorf parts, elliptical crossover, which is what we do on all our speakers. So overall, I think that it's built to a very high standard. I think when you hear it, you can decide for yourself where the cost proposition lies.
What do you think about MDF and wood?
I think woods is for furniture, and MDF is also for cheaper furniture, like IKEA stuff.
But the first speaker was a bit wood.
It was sliced birch plywood, but it always had the aluminum front and back. So for that, birch plywood is quite suitable. But to build a whole speaker from material as wood or MDF is definitely a compromise proposition.
This speakers, it's quite expensive in Norway, but M9 costing 900,000 euros.
750,000 in the US. We have to be precise.
Yeah, but 900,000 in
Again,
Norway.
that's because you have 20. What's your VAT?
25%.
25%. Well, hallelujah. Yes.
How is a speaker worth 900,000 euros?
It's very simple. You look at the sum of the parts that cost us to build the speakers, and you see how it comes up to that number. It's not an artificial numbers. All our numbers are based on BOM, B-O-M. It's bill of material. It's how much it cost us to manufacture that loudspeakers. So if you look at the M9 and you see the aluminum honeycomb carbon fiber enclosure that it's made of, this is the same structure that is used to build atomic submarine and space shuttles and rockets, etc. It's very, very expensive proposition. It is the best enclosure money can buy. We did not save on any option there. It creates an extremely stiff yet very critically damp enclosure that is just about perfect and suitable for loudspeaker. And it cost what it cost. So this is how you get to that price. Then you start looking at the rest of the stuff, at the 15-inch driver. If you look at the motor system, the amount of neodymium that each magnet has, and so on and so forth, you get to that amount of money.
But do you sell any of them?
Well, we do, yes, of course. We don't just build them for ourselves, you know, that's not the idea. We don't sell it like hotcakes. We don't sell it to the same level as the lower range, but it's doing fine.
When you do something like that, cost no object, it's going to be that expensive? Do you think, oh, it's not going to sell?
Not anymore. I used to think that way. I didn't know back then. You know, when we first built the Emperor, we did kind of a project, a future project. I thought we'll make only 50 pairs because I don't know if anybody would buy them. They were quite expensive. And all the 50 pairs were sold in less than a month. I should have made 100 pair, but but yeah. So in the beginning, I was more, I wouldn't say concerned, but I just didn't know if the market can bear products like that. But now I'm happy to say that if you build it well, and the results is what you hoped for, then there is a market for those products.
I've heard that you work a lot. How much are you working a week?
I work all the time. I don't sleep very much, so I have the privilege of putting some extra hours in the day.
How much do you sleep?
I sleep about 4 hours a day, so that's been like this all my life, so I'm used to it. But it gives you a little bit extra time to do more work.
But you also do some other things like photography?
I do, yes. You have to keep your mental in check. So I used to only do audio. It was a hobby. I mean, I used to have my work and then this was a hobby, but now it's not a hobby anymore. So I need to have a hobby as well. So photography, you can call it my replacement for the audio hobby that I used to have, which is now a profession.
Do you get bored hearing music?
Never, never. Yes, I'm very lucky to be happy to go to work every day and listen to music all day long, basically.
But what kind of music?
Eclectic taste, I think. I mean, I love jazz and classical, of course, but also world music and even pop rock. I'm covered.
And you started with classical music early on,
Yes.
playing violin?
Yes.
Do you still play music?
I play classical guitar still. Yeah, not as much as I like to, but once in a while I go into a period where I get to practice more and I still play, yes.
We talk about high fidelity, high and high fidelity, but it's not possible to make the sound you make on the guitar.
No, it's not. But it is what it is. You try to make the best you can, the closest that you can, but in terms of the proposition of what the live performance is, it's just a different form. So in some ways you can make it better. I can allow you to sit in a place in an orchestra where you cannot ever be. You can never be where the microphone is with no people around you. So yes, it cannot quite be the same, but sometimes it's better.
What is the thing that you most listen to when you're making a loudspeaker?
The seamlessness. You want to not hear the speakers when you listen to it. And that's a very tricky proposition because as audiophiles, we tend to latch onto the drama. We hear a ribbon tweeter and we are like, oh wow, listen to the highs. But there's more to the music than just wonderful highs. It has to blend with everything else. Everything has to be of the same cloth to fool your brain to think that it's not listening to a reproduction.
You started up with electrostats. It was the first thing you heard,
Yes.
Quad 57. Have you ever thought about making electrostats?
Now that I know how to make speakers, I would not choose that as a solution. It has too many issues that you cannot overcome. That's another thing. Again, it has some incredible magical point, but there are a lot of points that are not to that par, so it always leaves you wanting.
But you made horn speakers.
I did, yes.
What do you like about that?
I like horn very much. If you want to truly enjoy a horn system, it has to be from top to bottom horn loaded. Doing horn properly gets you to a place where you need to have very, very big horns to reproduce the band that you are trying to, as you start going down. And very quickly it becomes an impossible proposition, just size-wise. The problem with horn is that if you don't do it right, top to bottom, you're going to have an unbalanced system, which is what we just talked about. If you can build the big horns that can do 20, 30K all the way down to 20 hertz, it would be a very nice system for sure, but I can tell you my wife would not allow me to have that in my living room. And my music room is not big enough.
It was quite big, the speakers you made.
And it was going down only to 120 hertz. Below that, we had to make it into a dynamic driver, because if you look at a 20 hertz horn, a horn that can actually reproduce 20 hertz without cheating, without bending it and doing all sorts of trick, it's, I think, 30-some feet long, and the size of the mouth is the size of this wall. So, I mean, so yes, it's not a very practical way to go about it.
You come from Hollywood, working there. How did you get into speakers and things like that?
I was always into audio. I started building speakers when I realized the speaker that I had can be made better. So you start tinkering and realizing the stuff that makes it better. Then you go and research, why is it better? What's the reason for that? So you get into the science and engineering of what it makes to actually build good speaker. And that kind of sucked me in, and I started building speaker myself. And then somebody heard it and asked me to build them one. And very quickly, I was quite busy building speakers to other people as kind of a special project. And one of those projects was the Mini, the original Mini speaker that I took to CES in 2004, I believe, and the rest is history.